everybody know what's going on with him. Keep him in your thoughts and your prayers. He had his gallbladder taken out this week, Thursday, as a matter of fact. And everything went fine with the surgery. He was let loose and sent home Friday morning, but yesterday morning. But as it turned out, he ended up developing a bit of a fever yesterday afternoon and was not able to join us at the Jawbone Jam last night. He was planning on it, but he wasn't able to make it. And he's been given a whole bunch of antibiotics. So apparently probably developed some sort of an infection, which unfortunately it's kind of the way things go sometimes when it comes to surgeries like that. So keep in your thoughts and your prayers. Hopefully everything will get going and work properly. We are going here, and I'm going to just soldier on solo. John Bird behind the glass over there. So he'll be taking care of texts and all the other stuff behind the scenes, and who knows? If he knows something, he might jump in. John Bird, what do you know about racing?
I grew up with racing.
Okay.
Watching it with my dad.
That's true. You're a North Carolina kid, so you were in the heart of the NASCAR country.
Oh, yeah,
there.
man. King Richard. He was our man.
There you go. All right. Well, feel free to chime in as you want. And we're going to get rolling here as soon as we can get everything caught up. There we go. All right, so let's talk about last week. Real quick in a recap, last Saturday, Indycar getting things rolling on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's road course in a move that a whole lot of people wouldn't try, maybe save Cole Trickle. I don't know. Going to the outside to make the pass. That worked for Christian Lundgaard. Lundgaard took the outside on lap number 68, got around David Malukas, rolled on to the win. Lundgaard wins, Malukas second, rest of your top 10. Graham Rahal. Okay, start of a good month for the Rahal guys. Joseph Newgarden, Alex Palou, Scott Dixon, Louis Foster. Rookie Dennis Hauger with another good run. Kyle Kirkwood, Nolan Siegel making up the top 10. Alex Palou still your points leader. He's up 237 to 210 on Kyle Kirkwood. Then David Malukas third, Christian Lundgaard fourth, Joseph Newgarden in the top 5. Rookie standings, Hauger's well ahead of Kyle Collette, 100 to 70. Mick Schumacher holds 54 points. And in the engine manufacturer standings, Honda is leading Chevrolet by a score of 506 to 450. And that may get worse. We'll talk about Chevrolet engines and the, problems, I guess is just the best way to put it. Some of the problems that they have had so far when it comes to this month, because I'm here to tell you, it ain't been pretty. And we've already seen engine changes for Chevrolet, more than one. Chevrolet organization and car, not fun. So we'll have to see whether or not they're going to hold together. They did do practice yesterday, turned up the wick a little bit, starting to get regularly over 235 miles per hour in practice. And that's a good thing because the cars were holding together. And I say turn up the wick. Early in the week, turbo systems turn down lower, so you're not quite getting the same amount of power that you would. And then they just kind of gradually turn it up over the course of the week. And it looks like they're about at full blast. And, they're starting to cook now. So, they're starting to work their way up towards the 240 mile per hour mark going into turn number 3. Could we see a 240 mile per hour qualifying lap or qualifying run? Maybe. I'm not going to discount it. It's a possibility. The way things are going now, good grief. I mean, we're starting to see NHRA going at 345. Yeah, I wouldn't count out a 340 mile per hour lap. And then, or 240 mile per hour lap at Indianapolis. And then maybe start to see that average out over the 3 laps to the point where you might even get a 240 mile per hour qualifying run because they average it out over the 3 laps that you do. It could be fun. NASCAR weekend began last Friday. We talked about it last weekend. ARCA and the trucks running. And then Saturday was the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series running at the New York State Road Course, known as Watkins Glen International. We expected it to be a battle between road course ringer Moonlighters and Connor Zilic and Shane Van Gisbergen, and it almost was. SVG couldn't quite get close enough at the end. Zilic, on the other hand, was actually battling Jesse Love. But Love just couldn't close the deal. Zilic claiming his 3rd straight series win at Watkins Glen, joining in with Terry Labonte and Marcus Ambrose as the only other drivers to claim 3 straight wins there in the secondary series. whatever its name may be. Busch, Nationwide, all the different names. Not even going to try and get into that. Top 10, Zilich, Love, Taylor Gray, Moonlighter Ross Chastain 4th, Brandon Jones 5th, then Brent Cruz. That kid is really impressing. Parker Retzlaff and SVG started to fade a little bit, could do no better than 8th. Austin Green, Justin Allgaier round out the top 10. Allgaier continues to lead the points, 640 to 485. Wow. Over Sheldon Creed, who is, let's just face it, road course racing, not really his strength. Then you got Jesse Love in 3rd, Brandon Jones 4th, Corey Day 5th. The rest of your top 12 who would make the chase at this time: Sammy Smith, Austin Hill, Carson Kvapil, Parker Retzlaff, Taylor Gray, Brent Cruz is there. Remember, this kid missed the first 4 races of the year, and he's already chase eligible. And Sam Mayer rounds out the 12. Mayer holds a 17-point lead over William Sawalich for the final chase position. That's a good sign for him. We'll see whether or not it holds. Sam Mayer not really having that great of a year. William Sawalich is, I think, really he's starting to wake up. And what I mean by that, he's starting to understand how to really get rolling in this series. And sometimes it takes a little bit of an adjustment period, but I think he's really, really close to getting it. Then we move up to New Hebron, Ohio. This was last Saturday as well. IHRA Spring Nationals in Top Fuel Finals coming down to a battle between Gary Pritchett and Cameron Foray. Foray, a far better reaction time, but ended up losing traction. That allowed Pritchett to get the win. Ran a 3.06 ET, 285.53 miles per hour. These guys running a much shorter track than what you normally see in the NHRA. That's why you're not quite seeing the same speeds. Pritchett leads the points 190 to 162 over Scott Palmer. Jasmine Salinas 3rd, Lee Calloway 4th. Kyle Sattenstein is in the top 5. And in the IHRA Funny Car Battle, the final came down between Del Worship and John Brody Smith. Worsham with the quicker reaction time. He rolls on to the win, 3.312 ET at 267.06 miles per hour. Dale Creasy remains the leader in the Funny Car standings over Del Worsham by a score of 210 to 141. Then it's Terry Haddock. You got Jacob McNeil and John Brody Smith making up the top 5 there. And then back to Watkins Glen on Sunday, which belonged to the Cup Series. Again, kind of a question about whether or not your road course ringers, the Connor Ziliches and the SVGs, right? Were they going to walk away with it? Kind of like Saturday. Half of that was true. SVG, their team did this last year, and they did it again this year. Last year it worked to perfection. I mean, he walked away from the crowd. This year it actually was a bit of a question because that 3rd stop put him back in the field, that 3-stop strategy. When he came back out after that final pit stop, he was almost 30 seconds behind the leader, 18 laps to go. That means he's needing to make up almost 2 seconds a lap. Think about that for a second. And not only did he do that, he was helped when Zilich blew a right front tire and had to pit himself. But when told of the gap, SVG simply went to work, not only cleared the half-minute gap, he made the pass with a handful of laps left to go, ended up gapping second place Michael McDowell by almost 8 seconds. The man not only made up 30 seconds in 18 laps, he made up 30 seconds with, I think it was 6 laps to go, and then went on to win by 8 seconds. This is a guy who knows how to run a road course. SVG first, Michael McDowell second, Ty Gibbs third, Chase Briscoe 4th, and Tyler Reddick in the top 5. Austin Dillon, AJ Allmendinger, Kyle Busch, Austin Cindric, and John Hunter Nemechek completed the top 10. Reddick still leads in the points, 567 to 438 over Denny Hamlin. What a start to the year for Tyler Reddick. Let's see if he can keep it up through the heat of the summer. Chase Elliott's 3rd, Ryan Blaney 4th, Chris Buescher 5th. Rest of your top 16 sitting in the chase right now: Ty Gibbs, Carson Hocevar, Kyle Larson, Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, and with the win, SVG back in the chase at this time. He's in 16th place, and Chase Briscoe, despite the fact that he got a top 4, is yo-yoed back out of the chase, courtesy of the points win. So he's sitting outside of the chase behind SVG by a grand total of 6 points. All in all, not bad. He's been yo-yoing for a while now. If the 19 car can ever get to the point where they're steady, who knows what they could do. So this weekend slate, it began actually last night. Trucks running at Dover Motor Speedway. It was a moonlighter kind of show. Winningest driver in the Craftsman Truck Series history, claiming yet another win as two-time Cup Series champion Kyle Busch ends up winning in the Spire Motorsports number 7 truck, swept both stages, and despite having to kind of feather the throttle for what turned out to be a fuel mileage race at the end, held off the field, gets his 69th career win in the Craftsman Truck Series alone. The win marked his 5th Truck Series win at Dover, 13th win at the track across NASCAR's top 3 series. Let's just face it, the man knows how to run at Dover. Now, if Richard Childress Racing could just figure out what their situation is, maybe he could get a win in the Cup Series. And to do it this weekend, we'll get back to the schedule in a moment. Ty Majeski was 2nd, Lane Riggs 3rd, Caden Honeycutt 4th, Christopher Bell moonlighting, he finishes 5th. Brandon Jones, Christian Eckes, Corey LaJoy, Jake Garcia, and Justin Haley in there. Ross Chastain also ran. He could not complete the deal for a while. He finished stage number 2 and 2nd behind Kyle Busch, but he faded in the 3rd stage and finished outside the top 10. Updated points in the series show Caden Honeycutt's out front of Lane Riggs, 347 to 309. Then you got Chandler Smith, Gio Ruggiero, Ty Majeski, Christian Eckes, Ben Rhodes, Jake Garcia, Stuart Friesen, and Tyler Ankrum. 10 drivers making the chase. Those are the ones that are in. Corey Heim is on the outside looking in by only 2 points. This is important because Corey Heim isn't full-time in the trucks. He's running for points in it, and that's the benefit. And I guess you could also call it maybe the bad part about the way that we're doing points. If you're a part-time driver, winning you're in obviously is out now as we've gone away from the playoffs and back to the chase. So with a win, you get 55 points as opposed to 39 for second place, right? Or whatever it is, depending on how many vehicles are in the field. Corey Heim's got 2 wins this year. Again, he's on a part-time schedule, even though he has announced he's running for points in the Truck Series. And even though he's on a part-time schedule and has missed a handful of races, he's in 11th. Man could defend his own championship and be a part-time driver. Okay. This morning, actually right about now, first race of the Formula E doubleheader weekend in Monaco is underway. They're going to run the full Formula One course this time as well. 19 turns, 2.05 miles long. Good luck finding it on TV if you can. Knock yourself out. Monaco's a beautiful track. A little thin, a little narrow. It's on city streets in that principality, but it's a fun course to watch. This afternoon, Indycar gets the day's action rolling. They've got day 1 of qualifying for the Indy 500. Starts at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time on Fox Sports 1. Move over to Fox later on this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. So it'll be a full day of action on the track up there. Dover will be hosting the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series this afternoon. It's the Bet Rivers 200 airing on the CW and PRN radio. Starts 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. Sunday, we begin with Monaco, second half of that Monaco E-Prix doubleheader weekend for Formula E. Same course, same time frame, same trouble finding it on television. So, you know, basically same bat time, same bat channel, if you can find it on said bat channel. Over to Illinois, the NHRA will be in action. They're going to run the Route 66 Nationals. It'll get the eliminations on the track starting at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time. TV's not going to pick up the action until 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. That'll be on Fox Sports 1. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it'll be pole day. Practice starts 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central on Fox Sports 1. Pole day qualifying. That'll actually start at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. That'll be on Fox, by the way. And then we get to the Cup Series. Busy weekend. Whew. They're going to be in the All-Star race. It's going to start with the no longer All-Star Open. You don't have any open teams. In other words, this is just for the chartered cars. And the way the format is, I could sit here and try to explain it, but we're already 20 minutes into the show, which means we're about to have to go to break, and I could spend probably the rest of this hour trying to explain the format to you, so I'm not gonna. Let's just say that you've got a 75-lap segment and then a break, 75-lap segment and then a break, and then they're going to figure out the 26 drivers out of the 36 that will go on to run in the 200-lap actual all-star race. I'll let the rest of them try and figure out how to explain it. I've got a headache just saying it that way. And I only scratched the surface because I could get into the details of fan vote and who's going to place where and when. And no. John Bird, I'm not doing it.
I wouldn't if I were you.
I mean, after the night that we had last night celebrating the 10th anniversary of Talk 99.5, I don't want that headache.
Me neither.
So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get into the news of the week, and we will start in Indianapolis because, a lot of stuff going on up there, and it really starts last weekend with a bit of controversy over local yellows versus a full course yellow. And I'll get back to that whole engine situation. Once again, keep Matt Nicholson in your thoughts and your prayers. Running a bit of a fever after having emergency gallbladder surgery, and we're hoping that he's going to feel better. I told him, rest. I've got the show for today. I'm Steve West. That seat over there usually filled by Matt Nicholson. Not this morning. Again, if you're just now joining us, he had gallbladder surgery on Thursday, and everything, according to doctors, went well. But apparently a little bit of an infection, which happens from time to time in post-surgery situations, and he developed a bit of a fever. So he is on bed rest by doctors and my orders. He talked about trying to come on board via joining us via YouTube. Just rest, Matt. That's the important part. We want you back here in studio next week. Plus, I need you for a podcast on Tuesday. Speaking of things coming up later on today, we talked about the racing that's going on. A little bit later on today, I'm going to be out at our good friends at Cat and Bird Winery. And they just, by Shelby County Living Magazine, got voted as the best wedding and event venue in the county. And I'm here to tell you, with that pavilion that they got outside, absolutely correct. They got a couple of very cool horses, and they even got a donkey there, and you can take pictures with all of them, and you can actually feed them too. All kinds of stuff going on. But speaking of that wedding and event venue situation, they're actually going to close a little bit early today. They're going to close at 5 o'clock as opposed to 6 o'clock today because they have a wedding, I think it's a wedding rehearsal and dinner that they're going to be doing tonight. That's going to happen after starting at 5 o'clock. So everything gets closed off. And you could do this as well. Okay, if you go on to Cat and Bird Winery, go look them up on the internet. And if you want to do this, you can actually rent the facility out for whatever you're looking for. Wedding reception, graduation party, whatever it might be. And you can have the whole place to yourself. And you can actually do it technically during business hours, which are Saturday, noon to 6 as a general rule. It's a great place to go if you're looking to have any of these kind of events. And if you happen to just be out and about looking for something to do this afternoon before 5 o'clock, Cat and Bird Winery's got a great selection of wines and beers and frozen drinks and stuff like that. So got a great selection over there. Cat and Bird Winery located at 11661 Old Highway 280 in Chelsea. I'll probably be over there 12:30, 1 o'clock. Maybe I'll see you there. And don't forget, if you mention this show, CRN, 10% off your total bill. Not a bad deal. All kinds of great stuff going on out there throughout the course of the week as well. Make sure that your child, they had a line dancing class earlier on this week. So they'll do things like that in the evening. I think they got a cookie decorating class coming up later on. First Thursday of every month, I will be hosting music trivia out there. First Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. of each and every month. So, hey, come on out. Join us, okay? Let's get into the news here and talk about Indycar. And let's go back to last Saturday. Specifically want to talk about what happened during the race on the Indianapolis road course, Sancio Grand Prix, as they call it. Alexander Rossi, during the race, got just livid. Can't put it another way. Because his car suffered a hybrid system failure. Well, the reason I refer to that specifically is because Alexander Rossi had something to say about that as well. He ended up stalling on the front stretch just past the start-finish yard of Bricks. And we got a picture of it when producer John on CRN Live on YouTube gets it up there. And he ended up sitting there for a while. And if you can, go find somewhere, somebody's got it, I'm sure, the in-car video. And you will just sit there and watch these cars zooming past. And you're thinking to yourself, why haven't they called a yellow? Well, as it turned out, they called what they call a local yellow. This is what you can do on road courses. Formula One's well known for this. But while he was waiting for these cars to stop zooming by him at 160 plus miles per hour, he just didn't see it happening. So he said, you know what? To heck with this. Undid the belts, pulled the steering wheel off, got out of the car, jumped onto pit wall, walked across, and don't get me wrong, he didn't run. He just casually strolled across pit road, jumped over the pit wall there, and kept walking. And you think, well, shouldn't that cause trouble? No. Indycar finally did throw the full course yellow because they had to get the car off the track, plus you got a guy walking across pit road. Both of those are safety problems, especially the car sitting on the track, even though it was technically out of the racing line. Rossi said after the fact, quote, "It's pretty annoying to have failures on the car because of a product we didn't ask for." That goes back to that hybrid system. It doesn't improve the racing, so that's frustrating. Does this sound familiar? It sounds a little bit like the people over in F1 talking about that whole 50-50 split between the hybrid and the internal combustion engine. But he's right. I mean, technically, nobody asked for the hybrid system. IndyCar just decided to go ahead and put it in. Say what you will. Second of all, the fact that it took so long to throw a full course caution when the cars on the front straight are going by at 170 miles per hour also seems insane when they don't let us drive in the wet yesterday. So I don't really know where the priorities lie. It's pretty frustrating. IndyCar officials, realizing that this is a really bad PR situation, decided that probably ought to switch that rule. So the Rossi situation now marks the second rule change within a month. In this case, the officials are no longer set to consider either the running order or the pit windows when it comes to determining whether to throw a local or a full course caution. By the way, technically doesn't affect things like the Indy 500 because local yellows are not shown on oval tracks. And the Indy 500, despite being on a rectangle, is considered an oval track race. Indycar president Doug Bowles said, quote, "The most important job in race control is to ensure the safety of our drivers, crews, safety workers, and fans. Saturday highlighted that we must not waver from that central mission, and aligning everyone on that philosophy was critical to discuss over the last 48 hours. So it still brings up the question, when you have a car stalled on the racing surface, even if it's not on the racing line, why are we throwing a local yellow? Because, I mean, I don't get it. And I don't know whether producer John still has the picture up there. Let me take a quick look. It's still there by mine, but my YouTube feed might be a little bit behind. But if you look, I mean, he's just a couple of feet off of that wall. And that caution that you see there, that's a still shot, by the way, from the Fox coverage of the race, where it shows caution, and you see the yellow flag out of the flag man. Remember, that's the local yellow. He's following the guy coming off the turn, going down the front straightaway. Yeah, they go clockwise in this particular case on the road course. They'll go counterclockwise when they go to the Indy 500. But I'm still trying to figure out why, when a car is stalled, again, even if it's not on the racing line, if you have somebody that just has a flat tire at the wrong time, or you get 3 cars that are coming off of the south end of the track on the road course and starting to come up that long famous front straightaway, and they suddenly decide to go 3 wide and nobody knows that he's there, right there in that spot, that's a bad situation. Stalled cars anywhere on the racing surface, I'm sorry, you don't do that. That car's got to go, and it's got to go now, because that's a major safety issue. Again, that car stopped. And if somebody plows into him doing 165 plus miles per hour, 170, maybe even more, I don't even want to know what the circumstances of that might be. I can imagine it. And the truth be told, that imagination is ugly. Real ugly. So we go back to the question, why was the local yellow shown on the Indy road course when this happened? Well, the independent officiating board tried to shed some light on it on Tuesday before the rule change was detailed, said that when Rossi came to a stop, he was out of the normal racing line, so they just decided to warn the other drivers about it, but didn't feel that it deserved a full caution until he got out of the car and walked across pit lane. No, that was the exclamation point at the end of the sentence. The sentence should have been, we threw a yellow because he was stalled, even though he was off the racing line. If you, and a lot of us do, if you're listening to this show, you're interested enough in racing, you will probably find some time to check out at least a portion of the Indy 500. Think about how they start that race. 33 cars start, 11 rows of 3 cars, 3 wide. That takes up most of that track. And I go back to what I just said. If they were coming off of that final turn on the road course, starting to head down that front straightaway, and they start going in a 3 wide battle, if they miss that Alexander Rossi car sitting there just after the yard of bricks, they're only going to miss it by just the smallest amount of portions. Go back to the whole missed it by that much line. It could be real ugly. No, they're not going to find Alexander Rossi. And truth be told, if they did, Alexander Rossi would be right to have an absolute conniption fit. Because the safety issue isn't really technically him walking across pit lane. Yeah, it's part of a bad potential situation. But in the end, all of that could have been avoided totally by them just throwing the full course caution and getting the time to get him out of the car safely and getting the car off the track and all the other drivers being in a safe situation. So no, this was ugly in every form of the word. And they've got to fix this. This is a situation where IndyCar has to fix it. And at least they did go through the process of changing the rule. Now comes the enforcement. It's that what's an equivalent rule or law? Okay. Technically, to make a turn or to change lanes here in the state of Alabama, I don't know about your state, but I know in this state, technically you're supposed to use your turn signal. You could actually get pulled over and given a ticket if you don't use your turn signal. Who enforces that? Nobody. You want to know why? I know several police officers who don't do it either. It's not a law or a rule that's generally enforced. This one needs to be enforced. So not only put the rule into effect, IndyCar, make sure that you actually enforce it, okay? Then there's Chevrolet. Chevrolet having massive problems leading up to the Indy 500. Now, again, we go back to the early part of this week, and this was back when everything was kind of tuned down a little bit. We didn't have the turbocharger up to full power yet. But at the same point in time, when you're starting to have engine problems and you're having more than one car replace their engine before you even get to qualifying day, that could mean significant trouble for you. Chevrolet's problems do, by the way, affect more than one team, but it has really affected Ed Carpenter Racing. After Tuesday's practice and then once again after Wednesday's practice, Ed Carpenter Racing had to switch engines on not only Ed Carpenter's car, but Alexander Rossi's car, respectively. Rossi told media he got concerned about two engines needing to be changed out in week one of practice, with qualifying weekend and the second week of practice already still to come, and all before the biggest race on the schedule. Chevrolet officials, understandably, also want answers, since they noted that Scott McLaughlin over at Team Penske had to have his engine changed as well. Chevrolet officials did send all three engines back to Detroit. They're going to be fully gone over. They're going to try to find out what the problem or problems might be. But when not breaking down, they actually have speed, because Matt and I, before he ended up going back to his doctor's attention, he was watching the practice session yesterday, and they turned up the power. And these guys are doing 238, 239, 240 going into turn number 3. So they're cooking. They're starting to do regular qualifying speeds, which, hey, you need to, because qualifying starts today, as I said, in the schedule for this weekend. So they're starting to really get that speed out of there, and we didn't hear anything about the Chevrolet engines, even the ones that got replaced, having problems. Could it still happen? Obviously, yes. Hopefully not on this weekend. Remember, we got 33 cars. We don't have a bump day this time. We have the minimum number of cars there. So everybody that's out there is going to start the race come 1 week from tomorrow. We just need to find out the order, and that's why we're doing qualifying. And one more note in IndyCar before we then take a break. In addition to that Bobby Rahal documentary that we talked about last week here on the show, Fox Sports, doing some 60 hours of Indy 500 coverage, will air tonight after day one of qualifying, a new 1-hour documentary. It's entitled The 500 Immortality at Indy. It should get underway at or about 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time. It's going to be hosted by 9-time Indy 500 racer and 2016 Indy 500 pole sitter James Hinchcliffe, who's going to take the viewer on a tour of the IMS Museum in the Speedway's infield, and will explore some of the people and the famous moments that have made the Indy 500 one of the most famous races in the world. And I can tell you this, if you've never been to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it is a wonderful place to go. There are some places that you walk into and you can just feel the history kind of washing all over you. Matt and I, when we went to Darlington in 2018, had very much that feeling of having all of the history of NASCAR going all the way back to its beginnings washing all over us. I had the pleasure and very much thanks to my wife in 2021 of going up to Indianapolis back when they were doing the NASCAR Indycar doubleheader weekend on the road course. And I very, very much got that same, very same feeling. I've only been lucky enough to go to the Speedway Museum one time, and that was back in 1996. And I'm here to tell you, it was a cool experience to go through there and look at everything that was in there because NASCAR had just started there, so you really didn't get all of that. Now they've got some NASCAR stuff in there along with all the Indy 500 history that's there. If you ever get the chance to go to Indianapolis, make sure that you go into that museum because what he's going to show in that documentary, it's going to be just the tip of the iceberg, just the beginnings of it. So yeah, get the chance, go ahead and go. Not only to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, check out any race you can, but go to that museum. It's right in the infield of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it is such a cool bit of history. We'll stick with open wheel here as we take a break. When we come back, Formula One still talking about their hybrid situation and how that 50-50 split needs to be switched. And could they do a much bigger change in the offseason? It could have happened. Welcome back into the show. I'm Steve West, minus Matt Nicholson. Sideline this weekend, should be back, hopefully, in time for Cross Flags, our podcast in the middle of the week. Real quick update on Indianapolis. They were supposed to get practice underway right about the time we wrapped up the show here, 10 a.m. Central Time. Practice has already been canceled because they got some weather moving in through the area, and some intermittent rain actually is threatening maybe Saturday qualifying. You can do all the qualifying tomorrow? Sure, you can. Can't do any practice beforehand, but You could do it. So we'll keep an eye on that, and if we find out anything more, we'll let you know by the end of the show. Meantime, turning our attention over to F1, and how soon can F1 move away from this 50-50 split, this true 50-50 split between the internal combustion engine and the hybrid system? Well, according to reports that came out last weekend, an agreement has been reached by F1 officials to alter that for the 2027 season, bringing more of the internal combustion engine system back into play and kind of lessening the percentage. I don't know what the ultimate split might be. New split, according to initial reports, might lean towards a 60-40 split. I might prefer 65-35 myself, but they're not asking me, so what can I do? F1 officials are hopeful that this is, however, going to alleviate the concerns of drivers like Max Verstappen, obviously very outspoken against this current setup. The question is why don't they make the change this year? Well, I'm glad you asked that because, at least according to F1 officials, the percentage change would cause yet another change to the engine regulations. Well, folks, you're the guys that made this up. Can we just go back to last year's engine setup? Any proposed changes also would need to go before the World Motorsport Council. I don't think they're going to do an e-vote or anything again. They're going to wait until they meet up again, and I don't think they meet up again until sometime in mid to late July. Okay. Either way, another story, reports coming out of Europe show that non-controlling stake of the F1 team that is currently up for sale still has several entities that are vying for it. But right now it appears that the preferred buyer for that stake, for the company that is actually Alpine's parent company, which is Renault has started to look at everybody that has kind of said, hey, we're interested, and say, the guys who we'd really prefer to buy it, Mercedes. Okay. Huh. All right. Others that are interested include a consortium of buyers that include former Red Bull team boss Christian Horner. I know by his buyout from Red Bull when he got fired midway through last year that I'm quite certain he could afford it. But for whatever reason, Renault prefers the Mercedes offer, whatever it may be, and nobody's saying right now. And I think that that's an important aspect to talk about because, again, this is a non-controlling stake. And what do I mean by that? To be really get right down to the nitty-gritty of it, what's up for stake is a 24% stake in the ownership of it. It's currently being held by a financial organization called Otro Capital. They bought it back in 2023. They bought it for about $900 million in US dollars, give or take a few million. And here's the deal. This kind of makes sense on another level as well. Renault at one point in time was a works operation, which meant they built all of their cars, they built all of their engines, they built all of their transmissions. Everything was built in-house. Officially, as of this year, they are no longer a works organization. All Alpine does is build their own chassis and build their own bodies. They actually are customers of Mercedes for the powertrain. Read the internal combustion engine, the hybrid system, and the transmission. That all comes from Mercedes. So in a way, it kind of makes sense that they would go, well, why don't we actually have the people that we are buying the engines from have a stake in the team? Isn't it a conflict of interest? Technically not. It's how Red Bull got the group that we now call Racing Bulls. Used to be called any number of different things, including Toro Rosso. They went out and bought a team, named it Red Bull, and then said, oh, wait a minute, there's this other team over here. We could actually have kind of a B team at the very top level and have 4 drivers to be able to kind of pick and choose and move around to our own pleasure. And believe me, they do. It's not like chess. They're moving around like checkers pieces. So they went and they did it. So is this the beginnings of Mercedes going out and having a B team in F1? Not according to Renault. Renault has been in and out of this situation under whatever name on 3 or 4 different occasions here in the fairly recent past, read to 20, 30 years. They've sold the organization. They bought it back. They sold off part of the organization. Now they're looking at, who might actually get that piece. And Mercedes is saying, we actually aren't interested in doing this because of the fact that we want to eventually sell the whole organization. We're just doing this because we're looking for a little extra capital. We want to retain the 50.1 or 51%, whatever the controlling stake that they're looking to keep is. And they're using the rest of it kind of like you would do an IPO in the stock market, which is to try and raise some capital. And that's all that they're doing. So Mercedes is out there, Otro Capital more than willing to sell. The question becomes, how much is this thing worth? Because again, $900 million 3 years ago, you're talking probably, I would go probably about twice that. Maybe even a little bit more. 2.5 billion with a B. For 24% stake. Okay. I'll write a check. Be post-dated for a couple of centuries. By the way, those who thought that Liberty Media moving F1 TV coverage in the United States away from ESPN over to the streaming service of Apple TV, you might be disappointed somewhat to learn that Liberty's reported revenue is actually up more than 50% over the first quarter of 2025. Obviously, some things did help. Extra race in the month of March. Having to take the month of April off due to the war in Iran is going to hurt, but that falls into the second quarter, so we'll find that out later. But right now, for the first quarter of the year, Liberty reports revenues of $617 million. That's just in the first 3 months of the year. Plus the implementation of several broadcast rights agreements. Obviously, the move to Apple TV here in the U.S., but they also did an extension of their agreement with Sky Sports for coverage in the UK and Italy amongst them. Again, quarter two, because of missing those two races, probably not going to look anywhere near as good, but it's a good start. And I get it. If you don't want to get Apple TV, don't get it. Welcome to the world of being a free country. If you don't want to get it, don't get it. But all those people who started to sit there, and I've come across them, and they said nothing but corporate, it's just corporate greed. It's corporate greed. Tell me you've never run a business without specifically telling me you've never run a business. Because if I am doing, we'll just use the show, if Matt and John and myself, and I'll include John Bird in this as well, because he's become a regular part of the show. Mm-hmm. So if the four of us have the CRN Racing League, and we have been on, we'll say the Fox Network.
Okay.
And then ABC, ESPN comes over and they offer us double the amount for the broadcast rights. How stupid would we be to go, well, we've been on Fox this whole time. ESPN, we don't think has the same reach, so we're not going to take your money.
No,
what?
It makes no sense whatsoever.
So again, tell me you've never run a business without specifically telling me you've never run a business. Do you have to like it? No, you don't. Just because they went away from ESPN, which is a heck of a lot more attainable than Apple TV, I get it. You can be upset. But from a business standpoint, it makes every single bit the financial sense. Sorry. Welcome to capitalism. And one more note here from the world of Formula One, where Max Verstappen, that guy who's been complaining so much, he's taking advantage of this time off from Formula One. He's not even in North America. They raced in Miami a couple of weeks ago. They'll be in Canada next weekend, but he's back over in Europe and giving sports cars a run. He's in the 24 Hours of Nürburgring in his home country of Germany. Watching it here in the U.S. is a little bit of a problem. It's not on TV anywhere. You have to actually go online. You can go to racer.com, and if you go onto racer.com, at the very top of the page, you'll see a situation where it says watch. And you can watch the 24 Hours of Nürburgring through there, and if you're interested, you can do it. Action actually began about an hour, maybe an hour and a half ago. I want to say about 7:30 Central Time, which is where I am right now. And they're going to go, as they say, twice around the clock. Cars navigating this full course of the Nürburgring. And if you're not familiar with the Nürburgring, you need to go look this up. Full course, one lap, just shy of 16 miles. And they're doing that for 24 hours. Have fun, Max. And the thing about it is, according to everything that we're hearing, this dude is ridiculously quick. He's running a Mercedes car with Red Bull sponsorship. And, you know, these are cars that are similar to what we see when you've heard about and seen probably the 24 Hours Le Mans or the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. A lot of the same cars going to be running there in that really twisty, turny course that has, I couldn't even begin to try and describe to you how many turns over a course that's just shy of 16 miles long. Thankfully, no, he's not trying to run the entire 24 hours. And rules prohibit that from happening anyway. Thank God. But I have run a version of it on the video games Gran Turismo. And while it is sim racing to a certain extent and not always 100% realistic, obviously, And this is important because if you think about it now, with the number of teams that are out there, you've got Legacy Motor Club that wants to get a third charter. They've got an agreement to buy one of Rick Ware Racing's charters. You've got RFK Racing that has publicly come out and stated, yes, we are in the market for a third charter. Where you're going to get that third charter, we don't know. And now the fact that with the end of the lawsuit between 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports on one side, NASCAR on the other, where they finally decided to just settle it before it actually went to full term in the courtroom. It started, and I think NASCAR started to realize, oh, this is going real bad. Let's just settle it and be done. As part of that settlement, the charters became permanent. And this was something that the team owners have been wanting for a while. NASCAR, for whatever particular purpose, was resisting it. And they finally just said, you know what? Okay, we're gonna let that go. Well, what did that do? It immediately made those charters that much more valuable. We've heard over the course of time, like the Live Fast Motorsports charter that went to, if I remember right, either Trackhouse or Spire, was one of the two. That one went for the better part of $40 million. $40 million. And then Stewart Haas Racing ended up being Haas Factory Team that dropped down from 4 charters to 1. The 3 other charters went up for sale. Those charters went for less. Why? Not really sure. Why the Live Fast went for so much to Spire, as I remember now, and why those 3 charters from the old Stewart Haas Racing, now Haas Factory Team, went for 20 to 25 million, not really sure. But now most of the people that are in the know, and I've talked to a couple of them, have said that right now, because the charters have been made permanent, that to be able to buy a single charter, you better be able to bring somewhere around $100 million to the table. Ow. Guess I'm not starting up that Cup Series operation anytime too soon. $100 million. But because Hayek Motorsports is a single car operation, there was a lot of speculation that, well, they might just go ahead and sell and be done with it. This move right here seems to say that it's not going to happen. Contract extension on the number 47 Chevrolet multi-year deal, the team says, allows them to commit to building the long-term future of the organization around a driver that they know is going to be there, kind of that steadying force, so to speak. So your driver's locked in. We know that they've got pretty good situation when it comes to most of their sponsors. Their relationship with their sponsors that they currently have is very good. Now they need to build upon that folder, so to speak, add a few more sponsors just to make sure they've got that kind of money, and then make sure the organization is built around them. And they understand. Talk to like Brad Dougherty, who's still involved in the ownership of it, even though it's no longer called JTG Dougherty Racing. He's still involved in the Hayek Motorsports ownership. He has even said, we understand we're not necessarily going to be front runners every single week on a year in, year out basis. We're not necessarily going to be a guaranteed winning operation for a race or two a year. But we can guarantee you this. You're going to hear about us, and 1 or 2 races in a year, we're going to show up, and you're going to go, where did they come from? And we're going to be laughing because we knew we were good here. And it's not just at the Daytonas or the Talladegas either. Because Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is a pretty good driver, regardless of what you might think about him. So they're committed to long-term, so that's the good news for them. Then there's, you remember this last couple of years, you know, when Daniel Suarez was with his old team, when he was being sponsored by noted Nashville country bar Tootsie's Orchid Lounge? Well, Front Row Motorsports has now stepped up, and they've gotten involved with Hard Rock Casino. And Hard Rock Casino is going to sponsor them for 2 races and in 2 different series. They're going out and really promoting their most recent opening of the casino in California. So they're going to sponsor a couple of different cup entries and then a truck entry for the 2 California races, San Diego and then Sonoma. At the San Diego race, which is going to be on the Naval Base Coronado, they're going to be on the hoods of the number 38 Ford Mustang and the number 38 Ford F-150 of Zane Smith and Chandler Smith, respectively. They are not related, at least not from what I can tell. And then when the series rolls up into Sonoma for the Cup Series, they're going to be in the hood of Noah Gragson's number 4 car. Truck Series not racing there. There'll be, by the way, an associate sponsor on the 4 car at San Diego as well. These are pretty sharp-looking cars, I got to admit. And ultimately, what I'm hoping is going to happen is we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more of this cross-promotion. I mean, Tootsie's Orchid Lounge was not what anybody, I think, would call a mainstream sponsor. But yet, when you think about how much racing has become a part of the city of Nashville here lately, especially also in the wake of what's going on at Nashville Fairgrounds, not only in NASCAR, but IndyCar as well, Nashville has become quite the little racing hub. So it really kind of made sense for Tootsie's Orchid Lounge to go out there and say, hey, listen, while you're in Nashville, come see us. And they put their name on the hood of a car. Makes a whole heck of a lot of sense for Hard Rock Casino to do the exact same thing. And you say, well, it's a casino. It should make money. We just had a story earlier on this week on this radio station, you know, the one that's right behind me if you're watching on YouTube. And, of course, if you're listening, you know what station we're talking about. And I'm part of the morning show here as the producer. And we got to talking about how a casino in Nevada, the hub of gambling, went bankrupt, shut their doors. This is why it's important to advertise. You got to make sure that people know you're out there in a sea of other groups and people and companies that are trying to do the exact same thing that you are. So if you're interested in advertising, we're open. Just saying. Let us know. We can do some business right here on this show. Speaking of special looks, by the way, this isn't a new sponsor, but for HendrickCars.com, it's a new look. They're kind of altering their usual red, white, and light blue look for a little bit more of a patriotic or U.S. flag blue, if you want to put it that way, for a 4-car salute to America, as they're terming it. And this is the look that's going to begin by debuting at Charlotte Motor Speedway Memorial Day weekend. Replaces, again, the lighter blue with more of that darker U.S. flag blue look across all their series. So we'll kind of detail it here as you get to take a look at it if you're on CRN Live on YouTube. In the truck series, this new HendrickCars.com look is going to adorn the number 7 for Spire Motorsports. Kyle Busch is going to be driving that at Charlotte Saturday Memorial Day weekend. For the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, the number 17 Chevy Camaro of Corey Day will have the HendrickCars.com look as well. As will the Junior Motorsports number 88 Chevrolet being driven by Rajah Caruth. So 2 cars there. Have fun, spotters. And then for the Coca-Cola 600, the number 5 car for Kyle Larson, defending Cup Series champion, also going to have that look. And not only is it going to be at Charlotte for Memorial Day weekend, they're going to take the looks out with them when all 3 series run again at San Diego for the 4th of July weekend. And these are sharp-looking cars. I've had the chance to take a look at them, and I love that blue. Don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of blue, but when you take a light blue versus that patriotic kind of blue that they're showing on those cars or that we have on the banner that's right behind me, man, I'm all about that look. I am all about that look. So nice job. Very nice job. I was really kind of hoping Matt was going to be here to talk about this, but I'm going to spend some time on this. I can't avoid it. Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic reported this week that steps are being made towards returning the race to downtown Chicago. Yeah, they want to bring back the Chicago Street Course race. Report says that multiple industry sources have told The Athletic that discussions have been taking place between NASCAR officials and the Chicago City Council. They don't have a finalized deal, but they say optimism is growing that it might be back as soon as next year. Why? And I sincerely have to ask this question. I know that this car has been built to a different set of standards. And they wanted it to be able to do many more things better than the last generation of car. And amongst them is road course racing. And over the last few years, we have seen the explosion in the number of road courses and now street courses that are on the slate. Again, I'm going to state this, and I'm going to make sure that you understand how clear I am when it comes to it. I am an unabashed road course racing fan. I love road courses. I think they're a lot of fun. I think it challenges the drivers in regardless of whatever series they're in. Because if you're going to claim that your drivers are amongst the best in the world, they should be able to do more than turn left. But I will state this, and I will state it plainly. NASCAR's heritage, their roots, are in going fast and turning left. I get it. When NASCAR, was only doing 2 road course races a year, but yet we had a 36 race point schedule, which we currently do. I said, why don't we do it this way? Add a 3rd road course, put 1 road course in the first third of the year, a road course in the middle third of the year, and a road course in the final third of the year, and make it in the chase, playoffs, whatever you want to call it. Now the chase. Because I honestly believe that you should have to run every single kind of course that you run through on the course of the regular season at least one time. I think it's a proper test. I was advocating for 3 road course races, not 6 or 7. But now they want to go street course racing. And I'm sorry, I've watched the street course race at Chicago. I'm okay with it. But the bigger problem for me is this. NASCAR has gone out and they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to revive Chicagoland Speedway, where they're going to race later on this year. Wonderful 1.5-mile track. Maybe not even arguably, the strong suit of this current Gen 7 car. Look at the racing at Kansas, Texas, maybe not. Vegas, Charlotte Motor Speedway. Why do you think for the chase this year? God, I still want to say playoffs. Why do you think for the chase this year they took the track and said, no, we're not going to race the oval in the chase. We're going to put you back on the tri-oval. It's not the roval. It's because the racing on the 1.5 intermediate tracks is that much better in the Gen 7 car. It's much, much better. It's vastly improved. Now, it hurt the racing on short tracks to the point where they're playing with everything that they can possibly play with, up to and including the compound of the Goodyear tires that they put on the cars. So they've hurt some other things, but that's unfortunately the trade-off. It's very hard to take a car and make it great everywhere. So they sacrifice some of the short track stuff for what they're doing on the road courses or on the intermediate tracks. And unfortunately, it kind of hurt the road courses as well. And the car turns better than the old car does in a lot of ways because of the independent suspension and such. But at the same point in time, again, you spent more than likely hundreds of thousands of dollars to break Chicagoland Speedway, a 1.5-mile tri-oval, intermediate track, the strength of this car, to pull that track out of mothballs. And now you want to go back downtown? And then Jordan Bianchi goes and he starts to do interviews. And in at least one of the interviews, he has said, oh, I could see where Chicagoland and the Chicago Street Course could end up on the series schedule at the same time. You do? Because I don't. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't. When are you going to go? You got to have separation here, okay? For example, a few years ago, they dropped Pocono from 2 races down to 1. Why? Because the 2 Pocono races were only separated by about a month to 6 weeks tops. And what was that doing? They were ending up scalping themselves. The fans that wanted to go had to figure out whether they wanted to go to the first race or to the second race. And if they chose to go to the second race, they weren't going to the first one, and vice versa. And that hurt ticket sales. So they go down to one, and now all of a sudden Pocono is close to, if not a sellout, because you got the one race in a beautiful area, the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. Michigan, very much the same way. Drop it from 2 to 1 race in the summertime because it's Michigan. You're not racing there in February or even March. And you're probably not going to race there in November, probably not October, because you'll freeze your ever-loving you-know-what off. Chicago's very much the same situation as Pocono and Michigan. How much separation are you going to get to the point where you're going to have people in Chicago willing to take the 30 minute to 1 hour trek out to Joliet and watch the race at Chicagoland, and then also buy a ticket to the Chicago Street Course race? Why do you think Chicagoland went into mothballs in the first place? People from Chicago didn't want to go to Joliet. But now that we've made the racing better and Chicagoland is back, we get the funny feeling, yeah, they'll probably come out and they'll watch that race. And should be, ideally, a good turnout. To me, if you bring back the Chicago Street Course race, which, by the way, NASCAR, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. I'll get back to that. That is the death of Chicagoland. Because there's no reason to do it. Who was it? Brad Gilley from CRN Radio was asked if NASCAR could go literally anywhere, where would you take them? Where did he choose? Barber Motorsports Park. We have 2 races at Talladega, but they're separated out far enough from each other to the point where generally there's about 5 to 6 months in between the 2 races. And it's a nice separation. But Talladega's also built up that reputation of being a nice gathering party reunion place that happens to have a race going on that we all like to go watch. But if you put a third race in this area, as much as I would love to see the Cup cars and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars, maybe even the trucks, run at Barber Motorsports Park, is that financially feasible? Does it really work? It's great for Indycar because Indycar is separate from NASCAR. And George Barber, in a lot of ways, built that track specifically to be able to hold that. Stock cars are a lot different. They're a lot heavier. They're a lot bigger. They're a lot more ponderous. And it's not to take away from the racing, but it's a vastly different situation. George Barber didn't build that track to really host NASCAR. Now, again, would I like to see it? Yes, I would. But are we hurting ourselves in the long run by trying to do that? And I think you are. NASCAR owns outright Chicagoland Speedway. All they got to do is pay for the upkeep and the personnel. They want to do a Chicago Street Course race. The city of Chicago is basically telling NASCAR, you're paying for everything. All the workers that are going out there and blocking off this course, you're paying for that. All the upkeep on the roadway, you're paying for that. And oh, by the way, you're renting that street as well. So you're going to pay us, the city of Chicago, millions of dollars annually to put a race on a downtown street course. When 30 to 45 minutes or an hour away tops, you own a racetrack that is the strength of this car. What are you doing, NASCAR? This makes so little sense. I don't want to see it back on the streets of Chicago. Maybe it's just a personal opinion. Feel free. Text lines are open. Phone lines are open. 205-545-9950. If you want to see them on the streets of Chicago, make your point. If you don't, like me, make your point. Love to hear from you. let me know. But me personally, I think you're hurting yourself by abandoning the track you own for a street course.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Back in, texting back and forth with Matt, who is listening, by the way, and you can converse with him if you're on CRN Live on YouTube. And he was talking about that picture of the Hendrick Motorsports cars with the HendrickCars.com paint scheme that we were talking about. That Corey Day look is actually not on an O'Reilly Auto Parts Series car. It's on a Gen 6 Cup car. Maybe just to, I guess, get the look out there. That's all we can think, because obviously they're not going to race that. So, yeah, and he was going to try and make it out to Jawbone Jam last night. He unfortunately couldn't make it because of all this situation. So I got him a shirt, and yeah, it was what he was looking for. So happy to be able to get that for you, man. Get to feeling better. Siluria Brewing Company has become a great partner of ours here and has been since the beginnings of us on this new flagship station here at Talk 99.5. Danny Sample and Jill and Karen and Jay and all the other guys that are down there, we appreciate them so much. And Shelby Living Magazine just had a fan vote, and Siluria Brewing Company was voted as the location with the best beer selection in the county. Congratulations to you, Danny. Great location out there, downtown, the old post office, if you know where I'm talking about. If you don't, it's located at 145 First Avenue West in Alabaster. All kinds of stuff going on all the time, all kinds of activities. Usually they have food trucks that are out there almost every day of the week. Sometimes they're open on Sundays. Make sure that you're following them on social media. They'll let you know about that. They're closed on Mondays. Tuesday evenings, they do regular general knowledge trivia. something I love to play. I've played it at Siluria and know the host very well. She's great, Jill. Different Jill, not the one behind the bar. Check her out. Every Friday night, music trivia. I host it at Siluria Brewing Company from 7 to 9 p.m., and then karaoke follows that, and there's all kinds of other good stuff that's going on. Plus, in addition to all that, they are also working with the local VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars Lodge. They're going to start to sell at the end of this month a limited edition Siluria Brewing Company 250th anniversary t-shirt. Saw the t-shirt, and I'm here to tell you, it looks real, real good. Goes on sale for $25, $5 of which will go towards the local VFW Lodge. Siluria Brewing Company, 145 First Avenue West in Alabaster. And again, if you're interested in advertising with us, let us know. Love to hear from you. Would love to talk about it. So, tell you what. John Bird, check the text line for me here while I am going to the phones here. Let's talk to late model Mark from out at Talladega Short Track and see what's going on with him. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Great show this morning. Man, you're saying so many of the same things that I'm thinking. As far as the All-Star race, I heard people say when it was at Charlotte, they should move it around and take it to different tracks. Yeah, Wilkesboro, that was pretty cool. They got a date, so they moved it over to Dover. I'm not a big fan of it. Yeah. Now these same people who wanted it out of Charlotte want it back into Charlotte. But I wanted to ask you a quick question. I know we're short on time.
No, you're fine.
This is a dream and probably not going to ever happen. But, I think a great place for an all-star race would be the Nashville Fairgrounds, baby.
I am 100% in agreement with you on that. If we could just get the people of the city of Nashville to understand the history of that facility and not blow it up because you got a couple of morons who are complaining about having moved into a neighborhood that had an existing racetrack, and just embrace the history of it, I think it'd be a fantastic location to have an all-star race.
I fully agree. I don't think you have to have 40,000 people. I mean, maybe they could get like 25,000, add a few grandstands, and have it there. I think it would be really, really cool, and the nostalgia part of it's real good. So
I think you're 100% correct. I think you're 100% correct. I appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so much for calling in. Yes, be careful out there, okay? I think he's 100% correct. Yeah. Okay, so you get a Daytona, which has a grandstand seating of well north of 100,000. You get a Talladega, which has, since they widened the seats and made a couple of patios on either end of the upper deck, it's dropped it down from what was at one point in time somewhere around 110,000 seats to, oh gosh, I forgot the number now. It's under 100,000 anyway. Grandstand seating is not the end-all be-all, though. Because if you have, I'll just throw out a number. If you have 75,000 seats and you got 50% of them sold, looks horrible. Look at the Bristol Spring Race, for example. 160,000 seats in the last great Coliseum, as they like to call Bristol Motor Speedway. If you sell 80,000 tickets, it sounds great on the surface, but when you put 80,000 people in a 160,000 seat stadium, what does it look like? Half empty. It's the visual of it. But if you pack 25,000 people into a 25,000 seat capacity place, that place is rocking. And Matt and I went up to, remember the Superstar Racing Experience? Yeah, Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham's deal that they tried to get running for, and it only ran for 3 years. Matt and I got lucky enough to go and call the race for the Superstar Racing Experience in its, I think, second year at Nashville Fairgrounds. And that place was packed to watch that racing. Fans go and turn out to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. It is a great, great place. It really is. It's a fantastic place. If you get the chance to go, do it. And by God, Nashville, get a brain. That track is a century old. Don't blow it up. Don't do what Birmingham did to Birmingham International Raceway. Please, for the love of God. There are things that you can do to mitigate the sound for all these people who moved into a neighborhood with an active racetrack. You're the ones that moved into it. You knew that there was a racetrack there, and if you didn't, you need to blame your realtor for that. don't blow up the history. And then NASCAR, please, yeah, do what late model Mark just said. Go put the All-Star race there. I think it'd be a fantastic location. John Bird, what do you got?
Yes, we've got a text from William.
Okay.
And it's a comment, and he says NASCAR, along with many other entities, has been making some questionable questions for years,
Sure.
or questionable decisions for years. They're trying to be too inclusive, and it's not for everyone.
Agreed.
Like to your point.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, to a large extent. Because here's the thing. You're going to watch it if you want to, and if you don't, you won't. And, you know, I love all forms of racing. I really do. If the thing goes fast, I'm interested. But that's not everybody. There are certain people that if they love racing, they love a specific kind of racing. Maybe it's NASCAR, maybe it's Indycar, maybe it's Formula One, maybe it's the NHRA. Maybe it is what late model Mark does. He's the track announcer out at Talladega Short Track. Maybe it's small short track dirt racing. None of it's wrong. But it's your personal opinion. And the truth of the matter is you can't be everything to everybody. But yet NASCAR does seem to really be trying a little bit too hard to try to appeal to everybody. Now, go out there and try and paint with a broad brush, sure. But if you think you're going to catch everybody, you're not. And what you're going to end up doing is you're going to alienate your base fan base. Those who have been there forever or for the longest time, suddenly they don't feel like you're talking to them anymore. And that's why advertising campaigns need to be very, very careful, because you certainly want to make sure that you keep the fans that you got, but if you can go and get some more, you do. Let's just say, as using as an example, Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. But before that, Bud Light had 50% of the beer market in the United States. Think about that. After that, they're not even in the top 5 of sales. So are you going to hurt yourself by trying and going after more? Here's your question. Let's see, what else can we talk about here? The only lead announcer that Fox's NASCAR Cup Series coverage has ever really known, Mike Joy. Going to get another honor for his career tomorrow. He's going to get to throw the green flag for the All-Star race at Dover. Mike Joy is in year number 26 with Fox Sports. And before that, worked for CBS, ESPN, and several more TV affiliates that were covering NASCAR. He also worked for MRN Radio. It's called NASCAR Races. Wow. In a 57-year broadcasting career, he has a multi-decade NASCAR career involved in that. And once he waves the green flag, he's going to be rushed around, take over his usual role of the lead announcer for the remainder of the race. And there are people out there that are kind of complaining that Mike Joy is past his prime. I should be that kind of past my prime to be Mike Joy and have a 57-year career where you're doing the one thing that you love the most. We should all be that lucky. So before you go setting Mike Joy off in his retirement chair, think about that. He's actually doing something that he loves to do. Will he make mistakes? Sure. Heck, I make mistakes all the time. I'm human. It happens. We're all human. Mistakes happen. Man's doing what he loves. Can't stop that. Can't stop that at all. Kind of a follow-up to the Cross Flags podcast topic from this week. It's available now, by the way, on all of our platforms. And we asked the question, what in the heck is going on with Ford and NASCAR? And we might have a little bit more insight into it with comments that were made later on in the week after we had posted the podcast. Mark Rushbrook, Global Director of Ford Racing, is thinking that there might be room for a NASCAR IMSA crossover. Are we thinking too broadly? Rushbrook talked to Racer.com and said, quote, Brad Keselowski's comments last November about RFK wanting to partner with Ford to go sports car racing were specifically, if we're doing IMSA, he was saying that he would like to run the hypercar team out of the RFK Racing stables. He'd love to race it as well, and I'm not against it. I think there's actually an opportunity with a GT3 car, as these GT3s are in many ways similar to NASCAR with the next-gen car. We love the crossover, like when supercar driver Cam Waters, for instance, came over and did a NASCAR race. Okay, I get it. You want to do some crossover. You want to see drivers doing some different things. And it certainly wouldn't hurt you, Ford, to be able to partner with a group like RFK Racing or Team Penske if they were to so choose, but they're kind of backing off a little bit from IMSA Racing as well. But I asked this question, Ford, and I know you've been IMSA Racing for a while, but with this concentration on the F1 engine program that's going on with Red Bull Racing and Racing Bulls, now you're talking about trying to get some of Ford's NASCAR drivers to maybe run select IMSA races like the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, which really has kind of become the property of IndyCar drivers. IndyCar drivers tend to gravitate towards the Rolex just because the schedules work out well, whereas NASCAR's really trying to get their season really started to go right about that time that the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona happened, so it's not really convenient to have a NASCAR driver take some time out, go run the Rolex, while the program for the Cup Series or the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series or whatever it is just starting to gain some traction for the year. But are we hurting our NASCAR program? And when you say, oh, I don't think it is, go watch Cross Flags podcast, listen to what we're talking about, and then put a pin in this as we turn our attention to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series talk. Because I think this is important as well. Because we just heard, officially as of yesterday, AM Racing has closed their doors. AM Racing was a Ford team. And what does this mean? For the last few weeks, Matt and I have been talking about how there's a part-time team out there that occasionally puts a Ford out there in Hettinger Racing. But they're not full-time. And what does that mean? It means that for more races than what Ford would like to admit, they have 0 cars running in an O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. Who would have thought that? We'll get back to that in just a moment here. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about TV ratings for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, because you might not have realized this, but the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race last Saturday went right up against Fox's coverage of the Indycar Sancio Grand Prix on the Indianapolis road course. Who won? I'll tell you about it when we come back. Final segment of this week's edition of CRN continues on right after this.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
checkered flag of this week's show coming up here as Matt Nicholson hopefully will feel better in time to get into the Cross Flags podcast later on this week. So as I teased before the break, last Saturday we saw a head-to-head battle not between the Cup Series and Indycar, but between the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and Indycar. NASCAR's secondary series took on Indycar in a head-to-head television battle. Who won? NASCAR did. Since this year got rolling, we haven't really talked about it much, but we talked about this last year when we were on the different flagship station, and it's something that the initial blowback was pretty big. Well, why is the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series going to the CW? Where's the CW on my television, on my particular cable satellite offering, whatever? It appears we found it. Because as a general rule, and all of this year so far, every single O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race on the CW network has garnered more than 1 million people watching. And this is a jump, by the way, for this series. Because before, when they kind of bounced around, maybe Fox Sports 1, an occasional race on Fox, often Fox Sports 2, if they broke 900,000, that was generally a big win for them as far as viewership. Now they're above 1 million on a regular basis, and they're starting to get to the point where last year they averaged more than 1 million viewers over the course of their 33-race year. What about IndyCar? Well, they went head-to-head. IndyCar, again, running the Sancio Grand Prix on the Indianapolis Road Course, while at the same time, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series running at Watkins Glen. Nielsen ratings showed that the CW bested Fox. CW's coverage of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series pulling in an average of 1.013 million viewers for the race, with a number that jumped up to just under 1.2 million over the final laps in Connor Zilich's win. Handily beating Fox in their coverage of the IndyCar race. 54% more in total viewership, somewhere around, 550 to 600,000 people on average watching the Fox IndyCar race on the road course. Big win for NASCAR. Big win for the CW over Fox. Huge. And then we get back to the Ford situation. And I teased this as well before the break. AM Racing announced officially yesterday that they have ceased operations. Seemed to be in the work for a couple of months, truth be told. Matt and I got to talking about it previously, but it raised our eyebrows when they were supposed to run the Rockingham race, and then within 24 to 48 hours of the race time, AM Racing said, oh, by the way, we're out. And they're based in and around the Charlotte area. Rockingham is an hour and a half, 2-hour drive tops to get from their shop to Rockingham, give or take, depending on traffic and all the other stuff. They withdrew from the March race at Rockingham, didn't really give a reason. And then once they did that, effectively, we heard nothing. They ghosted everybody. Nobody heard from them. Nobody knew what they were doing. And they haven't appeared at a racetrack. They've been deathly quiet. And I use that term very, very pointedly. Motorsport.com first reported this yesterday. The team officially closed its doors. VP of Competition Matthew Lucas got the employees together yesterday, told them they were all being released from their contracts, free to find other work within NASCAR or wherever they could find it. He did apologize to them, the report said. He said he told the employees he tried everything he could do to stabilize this organization, but nothing seemed to take, nothing seemed to stick. This is on top of the fact that AM Racing was trying to sell. At the end of last year, and right about the time the season ended last year, there was an agreement in hand for AM Racing to sell lock, stock, and barrel to an Arca Menard Series operation called Sigma Performance Services. And that was supposed to take effect before the 2026 season began. And effectively, SPS, Sigma Performance Services, was to become the new team within the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, using everything, shop, cars, most of, if not all, the employees of AM Racing. But at the end of January, something, more than likely financial, fell through. Deal called off. AM Racing said they were going to try and pick up the pieces and continue, and again, they did. They started off the season running the Fords. They were one of the only ones. Because remember, Haas factory team ran a year under the old Ford banner and said, you know what? We started off as a Chevrolet organization. We're going to go back to Chevrolet, re-partner with Hendrick Motorsports and all that, and we're going to try and pick up the performance from there. And all the teams that were affiliated with the Haas factory team, read RSS Racing and so on, said, well, if they're going to Chevrolet, we're going to Chevrolet. And Ford was left abandoned. And at this point in time, Ford effectively has no representation in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. All the full-time teams, either in the case of AM Racing, have shuttered, or they've defected and gone to Chevrolet, leaving Ford with exactly one organization, which is a part-time organization in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, and that's Hettinger Racing. I know of Chris Hettinger. I know him through social media. Good guy, loves racing, but this is a big bite to chew. And therefore, he's only a part-time organization. He doesn't have enough money right now to go full-time. And Ford's not giving it to him. Yeah, he's the big fish in the smallest pond on the planet right now when it comes to this. And I get that, but for Ford, one of the cornerstone manufacturers within NASCAR, going all the way back to its beginning, 77, 6 years ago, whatever it is, to them not have any representation whatsoever in one of the top 3 national touring series is amazing to me. And it makes us wonder. It's why we did an entire podcast, Matt and I, this week on what the world is going on over at Ford. We'll see whether or not they get back to it or not. Let's look at a little bit of drag racing news here with the IHRA taking a page out of the NASCAR playbook. They've actually signed a big name to perform at an upcoming event. For Memorial Day weekend, the IHRA is going to be in action. They're going to run what they call the IHRA Triple Crown event at Maple Grove Raceway in Pennsylvania. Remember, they bought it during the offseason, which was kind of surprising. Not that the IHRA bought it. They've been on a buying spree since Darrell Cuttle bought the IHRA. But the fact that they bought Maple Grove Raceway, a little surprising, because remember, this was the NHRA's kickoff for the countdown to the championship. As soon as the IHRA bought it, within 48 hours, the NHRA said, "Oh yeah, we're going to take that elsewhere." I'll get back to that in a moment. So the IHRA's got this track all to themselves, despite the fact that they said that they were more than willing to work with the NHRA. But they've decided to not only kick off Memorial Day weekend in grand fashion with this race at Maple Grove, but also kick off this Triple Crown event and series of races that they're going to do this summer by wrapping up all the action with a concert. The concert will take place after all the racing action is done next Sunday, May the 24th. The headliner, the opener is Jake Owen, an up-and-coming country singer who you may have actually heard of if you're a big country fan. I can guarantee you've heard of Dwight Yoakam. Dwight Yoakam's playing the concert after the end of all the action at Maple Grove Raceway. Had the chance a couple of years ago, courtesy of Richard and Valerie. They bought me and my wife tickets to go see him down at Tuscaloosa Amphitheater. The man might be getting up there in years, aren't we all? Man still puts on a fantastic show. Dwight Yoakam. Well done, IHRA. Well done. As far as the NHRA and what they did in place of Maple Grove Raceway, they decided to bring racing back to Michigan. And the Great Lakes Nationals now has a title sponsor. It is now being called the Dodge NHRA Great Lakes Nationals, presented by Mopar. So not only is Dodge the main brand there, the performance division under the Stellantis banner and the old Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram company, Mopar, is also involved in it. That's going to be run, again, the first week of the Chase for the Championship run of races. This is US 131 Motorsports Park, Martin, Michigan. This is the weekend of September 18th through the 20th. I don't know a whole lot about this facility, but the NHRA apparently feels very, very highly about it, so they were quick to choose it. And again, this brings it back to Michigan. And there's something to be said for that, putting it in the backyard. You think about once we get past the Indianapolis 500, and that's obviously the crown jewel, the biggest race of IndyCar season. But the very next weekend, they go race in the city streets of downtown Detroit. Honda wants to go in there and do well because that means they beat Chevrolet in their own backyard. And I mean literally their own backyard, because the course that they're running now in downtown Detroit, you can see GM's main headquarters in the background of some of the TV shots. So Chevrolet really wants to do well there because, again, they're in their own backyard. Honda wants to beat them there. When NASCAR goes to Michigan, Ford, in the series that it's applicable, Chevrolet, and now Ram all want to do well in Michigan, and Toyota wants to go in there and go, we beat you in your own backyard. Kind of the same situation. Now, not only are you going to Michigan, where Ford and Chevrolet and Dodge all have a lot of exposure by running cars within, but you do have a few Toyotas that still run. Even though Toyota's kind of pulled out of Nashville, there's still a few Toyota-branded vehicles in there. You don't think Toyota would like to beat some of the American-made brands right in their own backyard? I can guarantee you they do. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes. Let's go to Dixter, who's checked in here. Hello, Dixter. How are you, sir?
Hey, man, I got a friend in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
That's really kind of, he likes NASCAR racing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asking me how many acres of land do you need to put in a new racetrack for the area.
Depends on how big of a racetrack he wants to put in.
Well, I mean, what size racetrack do we need around here? Like Talladega.
Well, we definitely don't need another Talladega. They have done studies, and this was before Texas and Oklahoma joined in. If you just took the stadium, you could fit every single one of the stadiums in the SEC inside the infield at Talladega.
Yeah, well, I understand that.
Yeah,
we Talladega.
Yeah, we don't need another track that big. In West Alabama, honestly, I think we could really do with a good 3/4 of a mile to a mile track.
Yeah, well, I mean, how many acres would I need to cover to build something like that?
With parking
and
the facilities and everything, and me oversee it. Whoa.
Yeah, you be the ramrod.
Okay. Well, we can certainly talk about that. I'd say you need to start with at least 25 acres, and probably 50 would be real comfortable.
Well, 100 would be a good way.
100 would be real nice. Yeah, you could have a lot of parking, but I think 25 to 50 is the minimum to be able to put in a 3/4 mile to a mile track.
Now, what size was the track we used to have BMR at?
Birmingham International Raceway? BIR was a 5/8 mile track.
Okay. But we need one a little bigger than that, right?
I think it'd help, yeah. Because, I mean, you got a lot of short tracks around the area. Being about a mile long, that would separate it out from everything else that's around.
Well, another thing he wanted to know was, what's your price?
We could talk.
Okay.
We can talk.
Good. That sounds good.
All right.
That's a good thing to talk.
There you go.
I'll get with you later.
Sounds good, Dixter. I appreciate it so much. I have to admit, I never thought about actually running a track. There is an attraction to that, There is an attraction to that. Lola, by the way, already talking about splitting with ABT as their partner. They're going to take everything in-house. Porsche and Andretti in Formula E, they've been hooked together for a long time, but they're going to start to split up as well. And Andretti, it looks like they're going to be building everything in-house. So there's your Formula E update. Enjoy the racing. Cross Flags coming up this week. Hope you join us for that. Hopefully Matt will be back in time. And next week we'll be back right here in the big chairs with another edition of the Big Show, CRN Live. As always, thank you very much for joining us.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.